Hey everyone, Casey Cease here with LUCID Books. I'm here with one of our authors and my friend, Candice Mummert. Candy, how are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited to visit with you. I'm excited for people to learn more about your ministry, what you do, and also about your book, From Single to the Knot, how to make the knot worth fighting for. And so it's a really important thing. You've got a great ministry, a great podcast, you're a great communicator. And so I'm really excited for our folks to get to know you a little bit. So in your own words, why don't you just take a moment and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I am a communicator. That is for sure thing. In fact, I drive people crazy sometimes, but I'm a people person. I love being around people. I've been married with my husband for 18 years now, and just had a birthday. So, getting up there. Can't believe I've been married for 18 years already. It kind
I
of still
know
feels
it.
like we're getting started, but
In
we
many
have
ways, you
five
kind of are,
children.
right?
I
You're kind of getting
guess, yeah,
started because hopefully it's a 50 or 60 year thing,
true.
and the first 10 years is full of do overs. I'm sure. I know it was for me.
Right, absolutely. We're starting to get it figured out, maybe just a little bit.
There you go.
Um, we have five children, which is more than we ever thought we would have.
Yeah,
We have three biological daughters and two adopted sons.
awesome.
Another big part of our journey was going into the world of adoption, and so we've been there and done that. And my oldest just turned 15 and is learning. But my kids range from 15 down to 9 years old, and I homeschool some of them. So I am a busy full-time homeschooling mom, but that's never been quite enough to keep me satisfied. I'm a goer and a doer. I love setting goals and I love being out of the house. So I call myself a full-time mom, not a stay-at-home mom, because
There
I
you go.
really don't like staying at home. I like going and doing and all of those things. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I love it. Well, tell us a little bit about your journey to actually writing a book. I can't tell you how many times people want to pick my brain because they're thinking about it. Some people actually start writing one. Fewer people
Uh-huh.
actually finish it. Even less than that actually publish it. So, what compelled you to write your book?
It was not on my to-do list. I
Okay.
never saw it coming. Looking back now, I remember different people in different seasons telling me that I was a good writer. Even like I remember writing a thank you note once and someone saying, "You're really good with words," but it was just never on my list of things to do. And then one Sunday morning, we were in the middle of worship at church, and the only way I can describe it is that the Lord just downloaded this book into my mind.
Hmm.
And it was one of those things where I couldn't move forward until I did a brain dump. So I went home and I jotted a bunch of stuff down, kind of had an outline, maybe a list of chapters, although that totally changed by the time the book was published, and decided to give it a whirl. And so, in the middle of being a full time mom and doing a few other things, I started writing, and it took about a year for me to get that first draft done. Near the end, I was so tired of it being a thing on my list that I fasted from all technology to get it done.
Wow.
And that did the trick because I wanted to be able to watch my shows. And so that did the trick. And I finished that first draft and um, felt like I had said yes to what the Lord told me to do, but had no idea what I was going to do from there.
So, tell us why this topic was so important for you.
I think the farther that I got into my marriage, the more I felt like we didn't really have realistic expectations or understand what marriage was and why God had created it. So I'm so, so very thankful that the Lord blessed me with such an awesome marriage. Not perfect. Definitely still have had our fair share of struggles, but really a great marriage, like that lifelong partner that we talk about. That's what Aaron and I do for one another. He's my person,
Yeah.
and and I feel like so often through movies and through social media and even through talking to other people, we have such an unrealistic expectation of what marriage is. And so my heart started breaking, wanting people to know how good marriage can be and what makes it worth fighting for and what's realistic for me to expect from my spouse. Because I do believe with every part of my being that if we have better, more realistic expectations of marriage, we can have more successful marriages that last a lifetime. And so that kind of became my heart's cry for this book was to set realistic expectations, to know why God created marriage. What does it look like to be a good or a godly husband or wife? And then go out and share that, to set those realistic expectations with people.
That's awesome. So when someone actually chooses, they pick up your book and they choose to read it, what are you hoping that the reader is experiencing from through reading your book, while reading your book, and following that?
I hope that they feel like we're sitting down and having a cup of coffee together. I love my coffee, and if I could sit down with everybody that I met and just have a cup of coffee and listen to their story and share my story, I would be a happy woman. Like, that's just what I enjoy. But I hope that through my book, people feel like they're getting to know me a little bit, hanging out. I hope that they laugh a little, maybe cry a little, because I share some pretty funny personal stories in there. And I hope that they can start to relate to my story and see the joy and the potential in their story and in their marriage, that they'll walk away. Again, I keep saying it, but realistic expectations, that they'll set goals for where their marriage can go, that whether they're in a place of preparing for marriage and looking forward to that, or whether they're in a marriage and needing a reset, or just wanting to maximize the marriage that they already have. I feel like all of that is what the Lord finally gave me within the confines of the beginning and end of that book.
That's awesome. So I know this is your first book. I'm certain it won't be your last book, but we work, LUCID works with a lot of first time authors, and we have a lot of friends that connect with us online that are first time authors. What bit of advice? I heard you talk about fasting from technology for you to finish your book, but what advice would you give a first time author?
Just start. I think sometimes that's the hardest step, is just to begin. Stop talking about writing a book, stop daydreaming about writing a book, and just start writing. And don't have huge expectations. Don't expect that you're going to write it beginning to end. Don't expect that it's going to be great on the first draft. Like I said, I even completely reordered my chapters once I was done with that first draft. So give yourself as much space as you possibly can to just begin the journey. And then for me, because I respond well to goals, set goals that I'm going to write this much over the course of the next week, or I'm going to accomplish this month over the course of, or this much over the course of the next month. Or I'm going to finish a chapter and I'm going to send it to somebody to give me some feedback before the month ends. Set some goals and just keep taking steps without setting unrealistic expectations that'll then kind of roadblock you from continuing. That's my best advice.
That's such good advice. I mean, I always tell authors, write something.
Yeah.
You know? And one thing I always say to first time authors, don't let your friends congratulate you. Because something happens in your brain. Literally, I was reading an article and it said, like, you have the same type of dopamine release or serotonin, one of the chemical releases, endorphins maybe, of congratulations for finishing, that actually your brain starts thinking it's already done. And then you lose your motivation. And so rather, when someone's like, oh, congrats, I always say, don't congratulate me. Ask me in a month if it's progressing at all. How's your book coming along? Have you been working on it? If I haven't, why not? Okay,
Yes.
well, Casey, you'll always find excuses not to write, so you need to be writing, as opposed to, oh, congratulations, that's so great that you're writing a book, you know, and because then your brain's like, well, I've already done it, so I've got all the goods out of that one. And
Yes.
I mean, I can't tell you how many books I've partially written that I think maybe when, like in 10 years when I'm in my 50s, I'll just start finishing them, and that may be wise, actually. We'll see. I don't know, but
Yeah. Okay, one more thing that I would love to encourage first-time authors with is, don't be scared away when you feel like you're pretending. Like, I've published a book and I still kind of feel like I'm an imposter, like I'm pretending that I've actually written and published a book. And that's just part of it. So when you start writing and you start doubting that, like, oh, this isn't real, or I'm just pretending that I'm going to be an author, don't let that stop you, because we all have felt that. And I have a published book and I still feel like that. So don't let that stop you either.
So let me ask you this, Candy. What's something that you've actually failed at? I mean, you succeeded at writing and publishing a book. You've been married for 18 years. You have 5 children. I mean, a lot of wonderful things going on. But it's always good to get to know a person and see what something they failed at. So
Yeah. Okay. So failed at, A funny one that my mother loves to tell on me is actually back from way back in like elementary, middle school sports. Anything that has to do with running as a team, I failed at. Because one specific story, I'd signed up for the church basketball league. And we invited my grandparents, and everybody was there for the first game. And I went out on the court, ran down to the other basketball goal one time, walked off and said to the coach, I'm done. I don't want to go back in. And I never stepped foot back on the basketball court. So, not a grand failure, but when it came to running athletics, I found every excuse to not have to finish the game or be a part of the team. On a more realistic, more recent note, I often feel like I'm failing at finding the balance between ministry and momhood or familyhood, my husband also. And I know that there are days when I do better than others, but that's a constant struggle for me. I think it's a struggle, number one, that I feel like I'm failing even when I'm not, but also number two, because sometimes I let it get the best of me. Even right before this interview, I'm like yelling at all of my kids, be quiet, go get in a corner, don't come in the door, like yelling at them to get everything ready for this interview. And I sat down and thought, man, I should have just calmly prepared, maybe chosen my words a little bit better. But I think that that's a constant struggle that I continue to find this elusive balance between ministry and writing and being the best mom and wife that I can be. So I just keep asking the Lord for grace and forgiveness and an abundance that he'll fill all the gaps that I leave and keep working at it.
That's awesome. Well, tell us about maybe one or two things that you have going on that's positive, that are going well.
So I am really excited how the Lord has shown me recently my passion for not only speaking and being in front of groups, but also emceeing and helping to run an event smoothly. I love connecting people. I love building energy. I've had some opportunities at my own church lately to do that. And it fills me to be up there, building the energy, helping people focus for what the Lord's about to bring them, connecting from one event to the next. It just really fills me. And so I love the opportunity and the visions that I have that I'm hoping will be coming to be more a part of events of what the Lord's doing in other ministries and how I can serve and pour into them with the gifts that God has given me in speaking, teaching, emceeing, whatever those things would look like. But I'm just really excited. I think that, like I said, I just had a birthday and I have some great excitement for the potential of what this year is going to bring. And I'm really excited about it.
That's awesome. So you mentioned speaking. If an organization or a church wanted to bring you out, what are some things that you would talk about? Obviously, marriage is you're passionate about that. So why don't you tell us maybe some topics or things that you would love to come communicate about?
Sure. Obviously, the give me is marriage, because I've studied deep into that to write my book. And an exciting note on that too that I didn't even mention, exciting that's going on, is that my husband's becoming a part of what I'm doing. He's always been my biggest cheerleader and a huge supporter of it. But now the Lord has just brought him in. He's helping co-host my podcast that I'm doing. So it's not mine anymore. It's ours. And I love that. We're getting ready to do some speaking together as husband and wife. So that's exciting. So if there are marriage things, I can come speak. My husband can come speak if you want that male perspective, which is what I love in the partnership of this ministry that we're doing. But also, I love to pour into women. All the journeys that I've had in becoming a mom, in becoming the best wife that I can be, in saying yes to what the Lord has called me to do. I mean, the whole book is because I said yes to what the Lord called me to. So any way that I can encourage and pour into other women to share my story and give them confidence to step into what they're being asked to do, I love that. Of course, adoption is another one. And there was a moment in my journey where I thought, wait, Lord, I'm writing a book on marriage. Why are you calling me to adopt? How is this going to work out? And obviously, he doesn't keep things all clean and in a box like I would like for them to be.
No.
So, he's taken us down the road of adoption, and we've been a big part of the ministry at our church with adopting and fostering families. And I love to encourage in that area as well.
That's awesome. Well, Candy, where can people find your book, find you online?
So the book is available on Amazon, Walmart.com, BarnesandNoble.com. My website is simply CandiceMummert.com, Candice spelled with an I, and it's all available there. My podcast links are there as well. And I have a YouTube channel. I've done a series of Mummert Minutes. So there's 60-second clips of encouragements for your marriage and for how to love your spouse. And those are all available on YouTube as well under Candice Mummert.
Awesome. Well, Candy, thanks so much for taking time to visit with us, and I'm sure we'll be talking again soon.
Thank you.